You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul. Shocker.
And my name is Rob, and we welcome you to this episode, which is 1047. We are so grateful for you and for your continued listenership. I know that some of you have actually been listening from day one, and that's pretty awesome, pretty cool. But I have a challenge.
What's the challenge?
If you have been out there and been listening for more than 50 shows and haven't asked a question, I think it's time you stepped up and asked a question.
Uh-oh, he's calling you out.
Yeah. No, but we really do want to hear from you because, again, we know that you have questions, and we know that many of you don't want your voice out here or whatever. Use a pseudonym if you need to. But we want to hear what you think, and we want to know, we've certainly got into this, and it's a good thing, but we've gotten into this sort of wave of mapping questions over the last several months. And it would be a lot of fun to get back into some cinematography or just various other elements that drone service providers, DSPs, are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And it could be deep business questions as well. And financial related questions. I think what happens is you listen and you hear that there's a ton being talked about on mapping, and it's almost like subconsciously people start to think it's almost a mapping show. And it's not. We love talking about mapping. We're very good at mapping, but we would love to talk about all the other things that the majority of you are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So come on in. AskDroneU.com for your question.
Yes, please. But anyway, I'm really excited about today because I feel like today, Rob, you get the opportunity to not only answer this question that's kind of come in, but also to almost provide a prerequisite to the business course that we have online. Because this particular question really does feed right into the business course, but it's almost as if you get a personal opportunity to discuss with everyone, okay, if you're about to dive down this hole, here are the things and the timeline to do it. Here are the things to do, and here's the timeline to do it. And I think a lot of people actually really need to hear this because there are a lot of people out there who want to get into the drone business part-time. They have a full-time job right now. They have their security right now, and their 401k is about to come to fruition. But they also want to maintain their happiness. They have learned over the last 20 years that, you know what, having a secure job isn't everything. I want to be happy as well. I and you are luckily one of the few people who do what they love, and we have managed, thanks to you listeners out there and members of Drone U, to create a sustainable lifestyle, which is why we continue to give. We try to provide more. In fact, a new class launching this week. I said it last week, but it's actually on the site. So really excited about that. But this is a great opportunity, Rob, because we get to talk about, planning your business, setting up the timeline, where to divert your energy. And you know what? This was really exciting for me. When we started talking about this on the walk, I got really excited because there's something to me that is so much fun about getting a business ready, like making my website, getting my logos together, getting my graphics done, doing all the SEO research. Like I really love doing all of that. It's really a lot of fun. And
it's an exciting time for sure.
It really is. And for a lot of people out there, the lessons that you can learn in today's show are applicable really anywhere in any business, especially small business. But that being said, I would say even I'm excited because I've done it wrong so many times. I've had the blessing of being on this train with you, and I've gotten to see how to do it the right way, even when it's painful. So with that said, I'm really excited to kind of dive into today's question, which is all about, business and whatnot. The person does ask a few questions. One of them is about another mapping software, and we're probably not going to hit into that too much. I will just briefly talk about it, but I think we should really go right into this question, because I think this is going to be one of those shows that really gets people thinking, especially as we move into the winter time frame, where more and more of us are not able to fly. So we have the opportunity to work on our business, build relationships, work on our website, work on our demos. How are we going to tell that story? How are we going to provide value? So there's a lot as more and more of us are coming into the cold season and we get to work on our business. I know for some small business owners, this is a very exciting time of the year. You get to spend a lot of time with family. And then as the family leaves and everyone else in your house goes back to their regular lives, it's kind of slow in the beginning of the year. And some people don't like that. I know I used to be one of those people. I used to worry about business kind of slowing down, but now I love it because I know exactly what I need to work on, what I need to get done, what I need to work on. I know I said that twice, but really just focus on working on my business, the systems, the efficiencies, all of that. So,
and maybe a little rest, maybe a jaunt to Hawaii.
I need rest so
Stuff
badly.
like that. Yeah,
you know,
very
you can
important.
only work so many months. Like I like sitting here thinking about it. I worked the last 3 months. I've worked 15 to 20 days straight each month in one form or another. And I would say it's definitely taking its toll. A lot of people are asking for things, and we're focused. We're very focused on what we're trying to bring to the market. And it's definitely been tiring, but people are not here to hear about my emotional state of being. So we're going to keep moving forward and get right into today's question, which, by the way, is brought to you by our newest set of landing pads. If you're looking for a way to protect your drone, whether you're taking off from grass and you don't want to get the gimbal broken up on the grass, or you're taking off from dirt and you don't want to get dust all over the motors and all over the camera and ruin that perfect shot, then you got to check out the Drone U landing pad. It is in the swag section on the site. If you go to droneu.education and scroll to the bottom, go to swag, they are right there. Those landing pads actually double as ground control points as well. So if you are in mapping, you're going to love those landing pads. They're set as a sold of 5 for mappers, and they're sold as a singular pad for regular drone pilots. You may have even seen them at the most recent DJI public safety event, where the Drone U landing pads were literally being used for takeoff and landing at the Airworks event. It was very cool to see that. Very cool to see the Drone U landing pads actually everywhere. And now we have just updated the design one more time. We were on prototype 7, now we're on 8. All I did was add a do not move warning triangle to it and separated the design from singular pads to numbered pads. So the numbered pads are actually a little bit different. They say do not move, ground control point, and then they say warning, survey in progress, do not move. Whereas the singular pads don't have that. It just says do not move. Ground control point is not on there, and do not move is not, the graphic is not on there. But in addition, we've got some new landing pads that we just got samples completed, and I'm very excited about them. And therefore, traveling. So if you are like me and you travel all the time and you go on adventures, then you're really going to want to check out the new Mavic landing pads, because those mini landing pads really are going to be something that you can fold up, you can take with you, and they still protect your smaller drones. So make sure, if you haven't gotten a Drone U landing pad, we're almost sold out of this run, but we already have another run coming, which is great. Finally, excited about that. And
Actually, if I may interrupt, we are sold out, but here's what I think we should do.
So what you're saying is I advertised something I shouldn't have.
No. I think you should let people know, because we have a shipment that will be here in short order. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
Don't want to overpromise. But I think for people who are willing to go ahead and move forward with their purchase of our Drone U landing pads, if you use the code DUBO when doing so, all caps DUBO, which is Drone U back order, we'll give you 10% off of your order if you order before they actually come in.
Wow.
So anyways, I love to kind of pre-sell them, and when we get them in, we just ship them all out, right? So you'll be first in line. We've got 2 people that have already purchased them, and they're waiting.
The new ones?
So, the new ones,
Wow, They wanted the new guys, huh?
Yeah, so no, they didn't actually know they were getting the new ones, but they are. Lucky for
Yay.
them. So anyways, if you're interested in that, check it out, and we'll have a link, obviously, in the show notes to this for all of that cool info.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's go right to the question.
Hi, my name is Lucas, and I am putting together what I think I'm going to need for a drone services business for when I retire. It's not something I'm going to start tomorrow or this week or this month or this year for that matter, but I'm putting everything that I think I'm going to need together. I have the Phantom 4 RTK. I also purchased a perpetual license for the SimActive Correlator 3D software program. And I wanted your feedback on that software. If you could let me know what you think, how does it compare to Pix4D? I would like to eventually be able to provide survey-grade accuracy. So I'm wondering, will I still need, or can I use Propeller's Aeropoint, the PPK upgrade that they have for the Phantom 4 RTK? Can I use a Propeller with SimActive? Do I need it? If you could let me know your thoughts, that would be great. And I love the show. Keep it going. And thanks a lot.
Thank you, Lucas. Appreciate the detailed question, the time you took, and we're excited for you. I'll tell you that because you've got a lot of fun coming your way. Don't know what you're retiring from, obviously, because you didn't mention that, but what an exciting time for you. Anyways, you wanted to dig in a little bit into the mapping issues. Yeah, let me just hammer
out these mapping questions really quick because I think some of these questions are interesting. So first of all, the software he's talking about is this SimActive software. Frankly, I've never heard about it. I know it's been around for a few years now, and I will probably give it a shot, but here's the thing. I think the reason that we've always been teaching about Pix4D is because of the accuracy that it provides. It is the most accurate point cloud generator. I would say that, DroneDeploy is the most accurate orthomosaic generator. And I would say that either Bentley or, I would say Bentley over Capture Reality is the best 3D textured mesh generator. So, this begs the question of, again, what is he after? Because it really comes down to deliverables. His other question about mapping, can I use the Propeller PPK system with the Phantom 4 RTK and with SimActive? SimActive, it would not be utilized with the Propeller system because the Propeller system with the PPK also includes the cloud software, which is a phenomenal tool for construction engineers and general contractors and managers, especially foremen as well, because it can provide, cut and fill volumes over time, change over time, without having to do any really extra work. The integration is seamless, and it's a phenomenal solution for that. So another thing that I just want to say really quick to get off my chest, Rob, is this whole ideology of people wanting to get into drone mapping and start talking about survey grade work. I would say, first of all, everyone needs to stop doing that right now. You're not going to make quote unquote survey grade maps unless you understand surveying and unless you understand GIS. And I think that anyone who is getting into drone mapping should really take a GIS class. It's something that we're going to be incorporating here at DroneU because there are so many people out there that are asking these questions about accuracy that really have no conceptual ideology of the different types of accuracy, what affects those accuracy, because the number of variables that affects accuracy is just astronomical. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to ground sampling distance. And if you cannot showcase a basic formula for how accuracy is created on an absolute scale and then also on a relative scale, you really should not be talking about it. I understand everyone wants to create highly precise maps, right? Totally cool. I do too. I love making really precise maps. And I would say, and I would, correct the vernacular and say highly precise maps. Don't say survey grade maps. You could really get yourself in a lot of trouble. It's obvious and evident. This guy is not a surveyor. So, it's so important that you don't shoot yourself in the foot. You understand your limitations. Mapping is not something that in this world of the pop-up guru, mapping is not something that you come out and say, I make survey grade maps, I want to make survey grade maps, and then ask some of these other questions that are coming about. I think it's more of, I want to create really highly precise maps, and I understand the systematic means of understanding GIS, of understanding basic photogrammetry, of understanding photogrammetry and the systems of creating it, and the relationship between acquisition of imagery and the processing of imagery. There's so many people, Rob, and I'm sorry, but there was literally a construction firm that was telling me that they didn't want a couple of their people going to one of our classes because they already do point cloud editing. And the guy was using a program where it doesn't even, you have no ability to edit a point cloud at all. And that's the only software they had ever used. And I said, how do you expect me to believe that, or any of your colleagues to believe that your team is able to do point cloud editing when the software you use and the only software you've ever used is not able to even do that? I finally had to just go off on someone where I said, look, we don't want to train people like you. We want to train people who are willing to learn, who understand that they don't know everything and they're willing to learn those things. And they also understand that they need to learn a lot more beyond, just this class. And I just kind of wanted to tackle that really quick because I think it's something that needs to be said because, I don't want to stifle people's willingness to learn, but mapping is a difficult subject. It's a complex subject, and there are dozens of nuances in this particular subject. And I just want to caution people, when you're getting into it, take it slow. You need to learn GIS. You need to learn mapping and drone mapping as a whole. I know we have our online class, but I can't tell you how many people have told me after watching the online and going to an in-person class, how many things just make sense and click. I think that's really important to really discuss. So I wanted to just kind of get that out there, but I want to segue now into the business part of this, because he asked a lot of questions about mapping. Should I go Propeller? Should I use, this, that, and the other, after having already jumped in and purchased a software solution? And my answer is going to be, it totally depends on, what your deliverable is. So
Sure.
I would recommend taking our class. You can learn a lot more about those deliverables. In fact, we got a great video coming out on YouTube talking about deliverables. So anyway, but let's move on to business, because when his line of questioning when it comes to mapping draws concern, his line of questioning in business draws praise, because he's asking all the right questions. And I think that's so important, because he's asking, how do I prepare? What do I work on? How do I get everything in order to start my business?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think as I listen to his question, Paul, honestly, I hear him telling us he's getting things put together to start a business, but not really asking us for any advice or asking any questions. And then he starts asking questions about mapping. But I think...
Oh, really?
Yeah. But what I think is really interesting about that is that and rightfully so, this isn't a criticism by any stretch, your initial reaction is, okay, let's think this through, because you hear him talking about starting his new business. And so you automatically go to, okay, what does he need to be thinking about to make sure that he's successful from the beginning, or he gives himself the best chance for being successful. I do wonder, Lucas, what your plans are, what you've already done, what you want to do, because I got to be honest, I don't really want to go into it too much here, because he didn't ask any specific questions. And so I don't really know what he's looking for. I don't know what he's already done. I don't know what his timeline is. I mean, he said, I'm not going to start it this week, this month, or even this year. So I think you're in a good position. I think you're in a great position, because it sounds like, you obviously have some disposable income to sort of be setting yourself up for this business. If you're buying an RTK, if you're buying a lifetime license to the software, I think what I would caution you on, if I may be so bold, is to say maybe take a step back and maybe slow down a little bit. It sounds like you're just like, Here's the one thing that maybe you have in your favor besides time, and that is, I think you have some resources. If I had to guess, you have some resources. And one of the primary things that causes a business to fail, I think many of us understand this, is to run out of capital, right? I don't get the feeling that's going to be an issue for you. But the problem that you might find yourself in is that you start throwing good money after bad when something doesn't work, or when you don't quite learn how to use something, or you get into a position where what you did buy and spend a lot of money on isn't working the way that you thought that it would, or it doesn't provide the solution for what you ultimately find yourself doing. And I think that's why we caution people in this scenario to take their time.
Yeah.
Like, get a feel for what they want to do. And maybe you've already done that. Maybe you are coming out of a GIS background. We don't know because you didn't say, but I would just say maybe slow it down a little bit. And but again, that's based on very little information from your question.
True.
And I'm really, really curious. I would love to hear back from you, Lucas, with maybe more detail on what you've done, and if there's a way that we can help specifically, because I would love to do that if you feel that's warranted.
Man. Interesting. So you don't want to give the precursor to the business course, treat him as a general and say, hey, look, this is how much time you may want to utilize to get your business up and running. Like, this is how much money you might need to get your business up and running. And the other thing too is that, there is, while everyone wants the perfect formula, I think the key for running any successful business is really understanding that you have a lot to learn. And you will always have a lot to learn. Number 2, the navigation to success. There are thousands of ways to go. The key, I think, is, are you willing to work harder than everyone else? If you are, you shouldn't have a problem with success. So lifelong learner, willing to work harder than everyone else. Yeah. And I would say the third one is having enough money to ensure that you have the runway to get your business off the ground.
Right.
Because I think that is an issue that I had with a particular business. And I think it was not an issue when I started my drone company.
Right.
Because really it comes down to, I bought a drone, did a bunch of little jobs, bought more equipment, did a bunch of little jobs and kept going.
Yeah, well, and like we've talked about over the years at this point is, yes, equipment is important, but your ability to fly, your ability to create relationships, et cetera, those are all, I would consider, significantly more important than the equipment. Now, within reason, right? I mean, if you're still flying a GoPro on a Phantom 2 or something, then you're probably going to be behind, and maybe it doesn't matter how good you fly. But generally speaking, I think that focusing on some of those skill issues is more important. But no, to your question, I think that
let's take skill out of it. They should be flying every single day if they have any inkling of hope to want to build up the skill level necessary to compete with people who have been doing it for years. And by the way, for anyone who is just like really, you've been dabbling, but you haven't really gone full bore and deep, if you were to fly every single day 2 to 3 batteries for a year, you would overtake pretty much everyone who has 3 to 4 years of experience, because most people are completely inconsistent in their practice, in their jobs, in their freaking ability to stay focused while driving. I mean, sorry, but there's a
pet peeve alert.
Yeah. But I mean, the reality is, let's take driving as an analogy. And when you are driving a very long distance, how do you always pass everyone? And that is, you set the cruise control 5 to 7 miles an hour over the speed limit and never change it. Literally, it's consistency. I can't tell you how many times I have just, passed egregious drivers who have passed me 90, 95 miles an hour. And then 5 miles down the road, because they're not driving at a consistent speed, I end up passing them. And it's the long game versus the short game. And I think that is such a critical mindset as well, is understanding that the habits I create today equate to the success I have in the future. The more habits that I create equals the more routines that I create, which essentially means the more prepared I am when the opportunity does arise. And I think that is one of the golden rules of business that's not really taught anywhere, is that your ability to succeed is truly determined on your ability to be self-disciplined, to prepare yourself for potential opportunities. Because if you're not out there flying constantly and learning the systems and writing those systems down documenting them, and then working with those and saying, okay, if I go out and fly every time, how do I make this a repeatable system? People are always thinking a couple moves down the road, going back to driving. They're always thinking 1 or 2 passes down the line. They're not thinking 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps down the line. And at the end of the day, I think that that's one of the most critical pieces of running a successful business, which is really having a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy and being consistent in your work towards the long-term strategy.
Yeah, well said. And I think that it's very, very difficult to do because the tyranny of the urgent, particularly for small business owners, entrepreneurs who don't have help, for example, that have to do all of the various tasks that it takes to run a business on their own. You really have to be disciplined to maintain that focus on the future and spend the time evaluating, reevaluating. This is what I was hoping for. This is what I planned. This is what's happening. Do I need to make adjustments? And so you're keeping your eye on the future, but you're also making adjustments along the way, and you're spending time on that. And it's difficult. It's tough. I mean, even we've run into challenges with that because we get so caught up, especially as you start to have some success. Ironically, it gets harder because
so
you're
much harder.
Dealing with customers and you want to give good service, at least we hope you do. And it just becomes that much more difficult, which is why the more routines that you create, the more systems that you start to put in when you have the time to do so, the more it's going to help you later on when you actually need to rely on those systems to get things done. So, no, you're absolutely right, but it's tough. It's very tough. You have to be disciplined.
It is really tough. I mean, man, I have to be disciplined to not try to design T-shirts while you're podcasting too, So there's a lot of discipline.
Yeah, well, yeah. I will say, and I've learned, and you guys have learned as well. You just don't know that you've learned.
See,
Paul has an uncanny ability to focus on a couple of things at the same time. If I was doing that and trying to participate in the show, no.
Well, I mean,
it wouldn't work.
There are pros and cons to it. One thing I do want to discuss just really quick, because we've discussed this before, but I think it's important to discuss because we should answer this question. When focusing on planning your business, when focusing on starting your business, no matter what it is, you need to have one of these. If you are listening to the show on Spotify, on Pandora, on Apple Podcasts or Google Play or wherever you're listening to the show, don't forget to watch the show on YouTube, and you can see this document that I have on screen right now, which is a business model canvas. And when I was in business school, I was told that every business, if they really are serious, should take the time to completely fill out this document on one page, single spaced, 5-6 point font. That if you're serious about a business. And also how investors look at how serious you are. They look at the detail and depth of what people do in the canvas. Mm-hmm. And I would say that your ability to succeed, once again, is completely dependent on your ability to work hard. And I think your ability to work hard is determined on how much grit you have. And I think how much grit you have is determined on your past life experiences. In addition, it's determined on your passion, because I think it's so much easier to continue working really, really hard at things when it's something you love, right? And I think that's also why, corporate productivity is almost at an all-time low, is because people, they don't have the sense of understanding how important this is and understanding how everything fits together. Anyway, long story short, business model canvas. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 boxes here, and each box has a particular piece of information that you're supposed to fill out. So, for example, the first one is key partners. Who are your key partners or suppliers? Which key resources are we acquiring from partners? Which key activities do partners perform? I would say one thing too is try to eliminate partnerships as much as possible. No business is going to be started on a one-man team, but when you are trying to create partnerships in business, ask yourself, are you willing to be a part of the same family as them? I think that's so critical. Would you be married to them? Are you okay with being married to them? Don't take it to a weird level. I'm not talking about getting weird, I'm talking about, can you spend long periods of time together with this other person? Key activities is the next box. What key activities does your value propositions require? How do you distribute those channels? And then what are customer relationships and revenue streams? The value propositions is the big box. What do we deliver to customers? Which one of our customer problems are we helping to solve? What bundles of products and services are we offering to each customer segment? And which customer needs are we satisfying? I would add one to that and say, what is the value proposition story and dollarized value? I think that that's something that should go in there. Customer relationships, what type of relationships does the customer segments expect us to establish and maintain? Which ones have we established? And how are they integrated with the rest of our business model? What are their costs? Who are we creating value? This is customer segments from our most important customers. Who are our most important customers and for whom are we creating value? I would say I think this is the most overlooked section for any business owner, including myself, because once you understand your audience and exactly what they're looking for and what time they're looking for it, you're going to be off to the races.
Well, and just let me add to that, because as you go through these, that's the one that really made me perk up, because it's also very dangerous to not, number one, have thought about that and have a really, really good feel for that. But once you've done so and your business is off and running, it's really easy to get off track because there's this new shiny new object called a new potential customer type, right? And it could get you off track. It might very well be something that you need to pursue, but I would venture to say that more often than not, if you had really thought through what your customer segment needed to be, and then you like the shiny new potential customer segment, it's just going to get you off track. And it's going to feel like, boy, I really need to do that because of the revenue. Mm-hmm. You got to be real careful of that. So that one really kind of makes me think about discipline again in how you think about this stuff.
I would go back to client quadrant too, focusing on, this is something I try to go over with Sarah. Sarah has so many business ideas, and I'm like, client quadrant. Who do you want to serve? High maintenance, low cost, high maintenance, high profit. Low maintenance, high profit, like who do you want to work with? Man, I think that is so critical, and so few people think about that, because when people go into jobs, they don't think about who they want to work with. Like, I had to fundamentally change Sarah's thinking too, because there are issues about corporate culture where Sarah is. And I said, you got to start thinking about when you want to work at places or when you're looking at new places. I'm not saying she's looking at new places to work. I'm just saying, if you get to that point, right, you have to ask yourself, are these the managers that I want to work with? How do they interact with their employees? How do they interact with their other teammates? Is it a collaborative effort or is it a power play effort? Like, what is the culture there? Yeah. So few people think about culture. And I think that is so it runs parallel to business owners not thinking about who their audience is, right? I mean, because your culture has to serve that audience. So anyway, there's so much in that. I should not go down that rabbit hole. We should probably shore this show up here pretty soon. But one of the other last boxes is channels. Which channels are you going to utilize to reach your customer segment? How are the channels integrated? Which ones work best, are most cost efficient? Something else too, if you're running an online business, what is the cost to acquire the customer? I think you should just put in your ideology of what that cost is, because as the business continues to grow, you're going to see those costs changing. So I would say customer lifetime value and cost to acquire a customer are something that you just throw down numbers, because once your business gets up and running, you're going to look at that and say, wow, I either was spot on or I had no effing idea of what I was talking about. 10 times out of 10, it's the latter, but I'll give you guys the benefit of the doubt.
10 times out of 10. There's no benefit of the doubt there.
There's always
Let's call
another
it 9.5 out of 10, maybe.
Revenue streams. What value are your customers willing to pay for? What do they currently pay? What are the alternatives? What do they prefer to pay for? And then cost structure for your business is the last one. So what are the most important costs inherent to your business model? What key resources are the most expensive, and what key activities are the most expensive? I mean, I feel like we could have a 9-hour-long podcast on this. Oh, there's a t-shirt.
Yeah, I would love for us to do that. Go deeper into that. Even into the business course, we could add a module that just kind of goes deeply into that, because we, of course, talk about that, but we go a lot deeper with it. Because if you can think through your business, your model, and be able to go through a canvas like that and succinctly and efficiently and effectively communicate the idea for your business and get it down on paper that succinctly, I think you're going to be in pretty good shape for getting a good start.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't agree more.
Right on.
All right. Well, do you think we did it? You think we covered it all?
You think you got that shirt figured out?
Well, to be honest, I'm really worried about the centering of the logo on the shirt because the shield is so big, and I think it makes it look makes it look offset. So I'm trying to, plan for that.
Just a little bit.
And I'm trying to just order a couple T-shirts to like get a sense of which ones I like.
Give me a long sleeve, please. $275 for a couple shirts?
No. That's no.
Denied.
No. Anyway, on that bombshell, that's going to do it for us today. My name is Paul.
My name's Rob.
This is Ask Drone U.